And we're gonna call our meeting to order. Yay. So Becky, would you do roll call, please?
Sure. Matt,
Here.
Rocky, Laura, here, Margaret, here, Jody, here, Sarah, here.
Oh.
Chuck,
Here.
Nikki, here, Gail.
Here. Okay, the consent agenda, any issues?
Can I add something to the agenda?
Next, maybe?
Next.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I apologize.
Motion to approve the consent
Motion,
agenda.
okay. Second? No, before she adds, you want to add something to the consent agenda?
I just wanted to piggyback off. Margaret.
I'm sorry, I need you to talk louder. Or you get...
Oh, hey, thank you.
I wanted to discuss, just have a small discussion about planters. And I think if we literally start planning that all out right now, get some pricing for in the entire CBD, and see what we can afford, and put that in the budget.
I think we can talk about that under the enhancement. You don't have to actually add it. We can talk.
We had started a point.
Oh, you did?
In enhancement, we started.
Excellent.
We'll address it.
Cool.
So, not on the agenda, I wanted to make an apology. I gave wrong information at the last meeting, about our wayfinding signs. The last draft I had seen in my email was not correct. We did a lot of work on it. And this year, the people that are within city limits, but still up the hill will be included. But I know that promotions, I believe, which I'm not on that committee, has already started working on figuring out a way to monetize it, and we will either make it so they have to pay a fee next year or remove it. I'm in complete agreement with that because I pay taxes downtown, I own a building, and I think that they should be offered the chance to be a part of it, but I also think that they need to be charged for it. So I apologize for incorrect information, and if anyone ever catches me, they can stop me in my tracks in the future and I will stop talking. But I know that we had done a lot of work in a very short amount of time to get that, try and get it finalized and try and get something, but based off of the motion that I had made about it, we had to keep them in for this year. So going forward, we will be doing a lot of work on it. That's one of our big tasks for this winter. So I know that I don't know when the promotions committee meets, but I do know that it is open to the public. So if anyone wants to come and give feedback about how we should work on that, they're welcome to. So
I'm not gonna say when they meet right off the top of my head, but it is in the PowerPoint. when we give the.
absolutely. That's not my, I don't know when they meet. So
I know, I think it's a Tuesday.
that's fine.
Okay, on the consent agenda? Everyone that approves? Aye. Excellent, okay. Getting right through this. Okay, are there any public comments about anything that's not on the agenda? And please keep in mind that you have 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address, and the board will not comment and engage in a conversation. We will take notes and then look at them later. Anybody? Okay,
I just had a comment about Main Street and the planters. Will I have a chance to do a comment on item number 9, or should I bring it up now?
Depending on
yeah,
what it is. either
depends.
way.
You can either, it's fine. We'll take notes.
Okay. I can wait till you
Oh, you
guys.
wanna wait? Okay. Bonnie.
Yeah, hi, Bonnie Pope, Hungry Springs Chamber. I just wanted to remind everyone, and many of you are participating, Night of the Arts is coming up on Tuesday, the 25th of June, 5:30 to 8:30 that evening. It should be a really fun event, including multiple areas where we have food and musicians. Even at Margaret's, we will thank you, Gail, for helping with that as well. We will have Teddy Tams, who does the food cart during farmer's market is going to have his cart there. And we'll have a musician, and then we'll also have a tent down in Marina Park with, not a massive tent, but a tent closer to Bay. That'll have a photographer and beveled edges there showing some of the things that they do. So we will be all over, and we'll be getting more information out on that, but that's our big push right now. And obviously that's massive to the DDA. Thanks.
Any other comments from the public? No? Okay, we'll go on to line item number 5. And this is the discussion on the Merchants Walkway and action. Becky, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. And I'm gonna speak as soon as I can see the notes. Okay, can you go one more? So since the last meeting, we have gone out for bids on the Merchants Walkway. And we did have a pre-bid meeting. OHM was at the site, and we had 3 contractors come and discuss that, what they would do there, and ask a number of questions. And then when the bids were due, we did get one bid that came in, and it was from John Copson. John is here this morning. This was bid out 3 different ways. One way was with doing the entire first phase of the project, because this is the first phase that we bid out. And another way was to do the first phase without doing the wall. And another way was to do it with not using stamped concrete, because these are ways that we could save money. Can show me the button. I know you won't be able to see this, but I did put this in the packet for you. This is official bid tabulation from OHM. And the next screen is OHM's recommendation and how the money would be spent if you did it any of the 3 ways. And I have this in a simpler form going. Here we go. This is what I broke it down to, because to me, this is the simplest way to look at it. There isn't the money in the budget to do this, as you know. We have the money, but it's not in the budget for this year. So we will need to go to council and get a budget amendment in order to do the project. If we were going to do the entire first phase, the way it was bid out, it would be $136,817. If we replaced the stamped concrete with concrete and still kept the wall in there, it'd be $125,467. If we use the stamped concrete and replace the wall, it would be $89,137. And the final option is to not use the stamped concrete and not replace the wall, and you get it down to 77 something. So these are the options we have to move forward. We did talk about this at the enhancement committee. We had some general consensus that they wanted to go ahead and replace the wall, but not use the stamped concrete. There were 4 people at the meeting, 4 committee members, and 1 had objections, but the other 3 felt pretty much that was what they would like to do. They are a recommending body or discussion body. This falls under their committee work. This board is the one to make the decision. So as we need to get moving on, let's go to this one. As the bid specified, we were to begin this after Labor Day, and it would be finished, I think the first week in November 7th. So we need to go to city council and get this amendment approved in order so that we can let John know that it's on his work schedule and that we are planning to move forward with it. And so what I'm asking you today is to decide which way you would like to go, how far you want to go with these improvements, if you want to do the wall, if you want to do the stamped concrete, if you would like to do the whole thing, how much I should be asking city council for. And I'm anticipating, what happened? Did I skip a slide here? Oh, there's where I wanted to be. I'm anticipating that you will be asking, well, how can we afford this? What money is there? Nick wanted to be here this morning and found out he had a doctor's appointment at the last minute, but I do have this general overview for you. Currently, as of today, we have $215,196 in our money, not in the budget, but that's how much we have in our fund balance. Yet to be collected this year from both special assessment and the TIF is another $104,000, which would give us at the end of the year of $300,000 if we didn't spend any more money. We're gonna spend a little money, we have bills, we're gonna pay me. We don't have any large expenses before the end of the year. But if the Merchants Walkway, if we do this, we will end up the year with between 222 and 163, depending on which of the plans that you choose. Now, ask me questions if I haven't made it clear.
How much have we paid, if we paid anything for the lights down Third Street?
We haven't paid anything yet this year, but that is in the budget.
in the budget.
That's in the
Is
budget,
that-
and that's 25,000.
Yes, so that's already.
So is that already at the end, when we say?
Oh, you're
For
right.
year end, will that include the
That would have to
25?
come out. Jody, very good catch. That would have to come out.
Just wondering what our
Very good catch.
projected year end would be.
So just another 25.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I mean, we still have,
it's not a
no,
lot in comparison.
I mean, can we go back to the slide before that when we were talking about, nope, next one. No, where was the,
I think it's.
that one, thank you.
Oh.
I'd like to finish reading that, please.
I also should mention when we're talking about the budget that we would then need whatever we have at year end and let's say it's 25,000 less. That will have to last us until June of the coming year. So, so there is money there, it's available. And then the money comes in and then guess what? It's the money that we've always had, plus the extra money from the county.
Well, and we've talked, I mean, we have. I mean, the only thing after year end is Ice Fest, which that's
It's in and out.
fine. And I mean, I definitely think that we need to talk about we need to do the wall. We've talked about that before. Cora brought up a really good point. It's failing.
It's been recommended.
It's been recommended. And if we don't do it, it's going to have to be done again. And then we're gonna undo everything that we've done. So why not just do it all? I think we just need to do the project as it's supposed to be done in the whole first phase. Instead of trying to piece together what we've already pieced together.
Since we've been talking about this
Yeah.
for 3 years too.
Well-
Hence why we have the money,
Well,
because we've
and.
been waiting to do this
And our
project.
and we've already skimmed it down as far as I think we can. I mean, whether it's a matter of stamp concrete, which, I mean, I guess I don't really have a feeling about that either way. I think it would be prettier, but I do think that, and we need to do the wall, we need to do this first part of it the way that it needs to be done and the way that it's been recommended to make sure that the grade levels are good and we're protecting the buildings that are back there and water runoff and everything else and give us a solid foundation to be able to build on this project if we so choose to, which I personally think we need to make that walkway back there a much better looking part of the city.
Becky, can you go back another slide? Oh, another one, back to that option 3. So on those, we have the entire phase. Option 2, we have remove stamped concrete in place of concrete, do not replace the wall.
So
Then
you're
we
saving
have
about $11,000.
Okay, then we have use stamped concrete and replace the wall.
I don't understand option
No,
three.
you got,
Right.
it should be just plain
It should be plain
concrete.
concrete, right, that was the recommendation from the
Okay,
committee.
let me try. Replace stamped concrete with concrete. Do not replace the wall. That's the cheapest one. The cheapest one is option 4. That's correct. Option 3 is use stamped concrete.
And replace the wall, should be the same, if that's the same as option 1.
2 and option 3 are just flip.
I think they're, I think it's okay.
They replace the wall, option 3 should say do not replace.
Okay. Well,
So the
if you all
recommendation-
understand it, then
I'm sorry, so the recommendation was then the real option 2 or real
Real
option
op-
3?
Well, it's a mixture, so there's some.
If we
so
go
what
back to the original bid,
recommend-
or if we go to the original bid, it has it at the bottom. I know it's small. There we go.
Yeah.
If we go to this,
Right.
this is what we should be looking at. Like,
Yes.
this is the clearest. So if you look at the bottom there, and it says what alternate 1 and alternate 2 is.
I mean,
Yeah, I think we should do the wall and just the plain concrete and get it done.
That's my feelings as well. I think that we should, if it's a way to save money, I mean. I don't know. I guess I don't have a strong feeling on the concrete either way. I think that if we want to save the $11,000, then But if we think that we should go forward, I don't have a strong opinion on it. I think the wall needs to be done. I don't have a strong opinion on the
Well,
concrete.
I know that part, if I'm not mistaken, part of the beginning discussions of all of this, the reason why stamped concrete was originally brought in is because they wanted the look of the cobblestone that was back there, correct?
The brick, yes.
The brick, because they did not want just plain concrete, right? Wasn't that a big hang up in the beginning parts of this?
Which is why I lean towards,
I
lean towards possibly keeping it in. I mean,
then
I'm
I
not-
think
I'm
if
not-
that was a big hang up. And I really think that we should probably, if that's still an issue, then I think that that's where we need to go with that. Is doing, instead of saving the 11,000, because it's, I mean, yes, it is a lot of money, but if it's something that is a real strong want. And we're not doing the brick, then I think we should do the stamped concrete.
Okay, what I'd like to do is get Matt, Chuck involved.
Yeah.
Jump in there.
Well, I from the beginning think that it's a project that's way over the need for what it is. If you think the wall needs to be done, I'd follow that, but I wouldn't put more money into it beyond that.
So
I think
no stamped concrete.
no stamped concrete. I don't understand. It is an alley. I don't think we want to encourage people to use that alley when another 50 feet, they can be walking down Main Street.
So just gonna comment, you know, we are looking at options that we have. So on alternate one, alternate two, you know, we are where we are, right?
Right.
We're at this point, what happened in the past, at this point, we've come down to the pretty much two options. And so that's.
My
if I
option would be
understand, So
two.
it's remove the wall. Yours would be two, which is omission. Well, I can't read it from here, but that's okay. I understand.
I
Matt?
guess if you talk about it just in saying, I believe in taking out the wall.
Right.
And leaving it,
Right.
talk about it in that way,
Okay.
it'll be more.
Just basic concrete, replace the wall, get it over with, get out of there.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
I mean, that's, I
Yeah.
think how we all
Right.
feel is we
Right.
wanted to do a nice project and we took a lot of community feedback and we got. to
Can I
a
ask,
point
can
where-
I ask John a question?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I think so.
Is there any difference between the stamped concrete and non? From the standpoint of, longevity?
Yeah,
Longevity, wear and tear, anything along those lines?
It's
Or is
most
it all
of the time
aesthetic?
and everything, and then if anything ever has to be replaced, you gotta try to match it.
Oh,
And there's, whether, I use a particular stamp, and if it's not me that replaces it, whoever gets a stamp, there's no guarantee they'll get the same stamp. Because I have stamps where other guys probably have to rent them, and if you're renting them, they're not gonna be the same stamp. Now, to piggyback on something, if there's an alternative to save the wall, are you guys interested in that?
To save it, you mean, if it can be just repaired?
Like if you get in there and you
Right.
find that it can be repaired.
Yeah. Ultimately, what needs to be done, and it's gonna get done, is all the water from the landowners on the north side of the walkway, all the water runs there.
Yeah.
There's a way to divert that water because we're putting in a new drainage system down below the steps. Put in a catch basin, collecting the water from all the lower levels, right? If we put a drainage system in there that collects that water, drops it down into the drain system, you're eliminating the issue that's been going on for 40 years.
Which is causing freezing thaw.
Would, correct. The wall, in my general opinion, and a couple other guys, the wall's not failing. It's showing wear, but it's not failing. There's no leaning, there are a couple cracks which can be easily fixed at a very minimal cost. We're not gonna disturb, the fencing up there. We're not gonna disturb anything up there other than tearing out an old brick sidewalk, and putting in new, in which case we can then divert the water and get it down. The wall down at where the steps go down, that's getting replaced anyway because we're putting in new steps. So where that crack is, that's all gonna get taken care of. And again, if we're putting in a drainage system, we're eliminating the water problem. at a very minimal cost. And it's saving you guys money.
I like that idea.
It's an option. I've been doing work in the city pretty much my entire life and we've never gone above and beyond. And, you know, this is, I know you guys have been working on this for a long time, but there's ways to fix some things that have been going on for a long time, without breaking the bank and allowing you guys to do some other projects.
Well, and maybe it could allow us to do ultimately, I mean, if we can come back here, I mean, I know Matt said to get in and get out, but the ultimate goal is to, I mean, I understand not wanting to divert from Main Street, which I understand, but we also have an area of the city that is in complete disrepair, whether it's been used, and in other cities you go into, Marquette, Charlevoix, they all have alleyways that people use that are well done, that have sitting areas, and town is still busy, people are still shopping. So
Those areas have stores back on their alleys.
Marquette doesn't,
Yeah, Margaret doesn't.
Okay, Charlevoix does, let me just say that, and that's why that works for them.
Well, I think we're so far into it,
yeah.
right? We're so far into it, the
It's not-
discussion
yeah, I
of
mean-
whether we should have it or shouldn't have it.
So are we at a point right now where we need a motion for?
We need to decide option one or option
Right.
two.
Option one or option two. And then consider
What
you know,
John just
that
said.
wall, what John just said, but we wouldn't know that, right? Oh, please, John.
If I may, my suggestion would be to go with option one. I believe. That we're talking about. Option one,
standard concrete?
standard. That allows you guys some things to do down the road. There's a lot of decorative things that can be done if you want to, like if you extend, like if your plan is to extend the rest of the walkway down towards State Street, you know, and other phases as different things progress. There's colored sealers, there's different things that you can do down there that are easily fixable, can be changed over the years, and it gets you away, but it saves you guys money. And then it allows maybe Lucas and I to have a conversation on the walls and drainage. It gives us some flexibility per se.
Okay. So I think it's time.
It's
time. It's time, finally. Okay,
So
make a motion.
I make a motion on the base bid.
We just need to make a motion. You just need to vote.
Just one or two, is that how the motion should?
And this
You
one's
could say in your motion, the work that you want to see. If you want to see the wall replaced, say if you want the wall replaced. If you want stamped, you could say that.
I think we just need to go with,
I can do it. Yes, I'll make a motion that we use plain concrete and repair the retaining wall for cut space and areas advice.
I second that.
Okay, excellent. Vote.
Is that going with-
Is that right? Is that what,
Is that what
is that fit
alternate-
in one of those?
is that alternate one?
I have no idea.
There you go.
Well, that,
Yes, that is all.
That's, yeah.
I just plain concrete, repair the wall and put drainage
well,
in.
we
Can
have
I
to
just, can I ask a question about that motion? Can we go ahead and if the wall is not
It's salvageable.
Right.
repairable, that we,
Yeah, we replace it.
then we replace it.
Yeah, we have to go with alternate one or two in the motion. We have to decide which one we're going with.
That's fine.
Alternate one is what John had recommended, so.
I'll amend my motion.
There you
We'll use plain concrete. We'll attempt to repair the wall, and if it's not repairable, we'll replace it.
Okay.
Alternate one.
And Margaret second.
I will second it.
Okay.
And that we will be asking for a budget amendment.
For council.
For
Right.
council of that amount, of the,
Alternate one.
125.
Four sixty,
467. Okay,
Seven?
yeah, we'll have to do it.
Excellent. Can we do a vote?
If you got a second?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I got
Margaret.
a second, Margaret. Yes.
Did you want public comment or?
Oh, any public comment before we start? I'm so sorry. It's on my agenda, but I'm not looking at it. Anyone? Yes, one.
Wendy Reed, 188 East Main Street.
It's tempting to,
Speak just a little louder, please.
it's tempting to take your offer to repair our wall. But my original argument has been that you can't use public funds on private property. That wall is owned by the Guitars. It's on our property. And we'll repair our own wall, but thank you for attempting to do it for us, but we will do our own.
When would you do that?
No, it's already been discussed by the lawyers. It's already been handled.
Never mind.
On top of that, we have an easement, which is to provide an underground utility easement and provide access for public pedestrian traffic to serve our property. I can't contest that, but you have a revocable license to improve the grounds, maintain and landscape the remainder of the property. And this license has been revoked. So I went to the county and I revoked it. So you don't have any access to improving our grounds, which includes the wall. So you needed to know that.
Thank you, Wendy. Any other comments?
And I'm assuming also that you're talking about our wall because there's two walls back there. And when I said we should be looking at the site map when we discuss this project, we're still not doing that. So we had, I think it was the December, January meeting, we discussed this project, we didn't look at it, and there was confusion as to which wall on my part you were talking about. Because someone brought up a property owner of the wall that's not us. So I've always been confused and I keep asking, which wall are we talking about? And I'm still not getting an answer. So I'm going to tell you now, the Guitars property wall will take care of it ourselves. Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. Any other comments from the public? Okay. Ready to go to vote, please.
Cora,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Jody,
Yes.
Sarah. Yes. Chuck,
No.
Nikki,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
and Gail.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Okay, our next line item, number 6, is this display of goods in the public right of way discussion. And we'll turn this over to Jack.
Hi, I'm gonna grab our, this up here. Maybe not. Oh, that. We have a laser
It's not.
pointer, never mind, it's okay, I don't
Okay,
need
give me 1 second.
I'll wing
Get
it.
your pictures up.
no problem. So I just want to preface this, city council, when they reviewed the zoning code, had some concerns with outdoor display of goods, which prompted us to kind of relook at that for, I think we've got it all sorted out, that we're gonna continue how things are for this year under the, guise of the old code, but that we're gonna look at, if you scroll to the bottom, there should be a PDF. Thank you. So what I did is I went throughout downtown and I took pictures of pretty much every storefront. And I broke that down into kind of 2 categories to look at what businesses have in front of their businesses. And then also we're gonna be re-looking at signage, and I talked with you at a previous meeting about signage that's in windows and how we want to address that. So I want to start off, we don't have to read this whole thing, but this is language from the city code talking about non-food businesses and the allowance for benches, chairs, planters, other items that wouldn't be a display of goods. So when we look through these slides and we see benches and planters and other things like that, that's already approved under the city code. We don't really have to address that unless we would like to modify the language that we have in there for that. So we can move on to the next page. So these are terms in our new zoning code that that we'll want to keep in mind when we're looking at this. Yeah, so outdoor sales and display versus outdoor storage. So if we can keep those in mind when looking at these and determining what we would like to see, not like to see, ways that we would like to expand or keep what we have. So in these first 2 slides, there's the bicycle shop. They have that rack there in front. They put out rental bikes. for people that are coming into town. I don't think that it's bikes for sale, from talking with them. I think it's bikes that they then rent out. The next door there, they've got the benches and planters, like I discussed, that's permitted in the city code. We basically say that they can have any type of thing that they would like out, as long as it's up close to the building, within 30 inches of the building, and that we still maintain what the city code calls for as a clear pedestrian path. So as long as they're not impinging that, they can put things out in front of their businesses. And I believe we keep that rule for outdoor display of goods as well. You can go to the next page there. So the first one here with Craig Ryan, they have a simple mannequin right in their little entry stoop there. And that's something that I've seen is pretty typical downtown. There's a number of businesses that have that. We go to the next one. Harbor, the chamber has the little rack with their pamphlets and postcards and things like that out. Just pointing out some of the different things that people are doing. Oh, yeah, the next slide. So Little Juice, this is less outdoor display of goods. They have a little outdoor area. So this is a good example where that's on their property. And so they have a little bit more room. Some people might choose to do an outdoor display of goods, and the only area that they have is out on the city sidewalk. There's very limiting room. There is still room to have something, but then you have some businesses that are set back. They have, in this case, seating area for people that are purchasing foodstuffs. But other businesses at this location in the future or at other locations may choose to put some type of outdoor display. So the question is, how much do we want to see? The next slide. This is more about outdoor seating with the Johans there. They have a large area that's on their property. Again, with L'Esprit, they have a little mannequin out in front. You can go to the next one. Similarly at Dressed, right now they have a mannequin. I will say at this point, when I went out around town, a lot of businesses didn't have a lot outdoors in front of their businesses. I think the closer we get to the 4th of July, this does expand. So as we go through the summer, please keep an eye out and see what you think is done right and what you think might need to be controlled to some extent if needed. Next slide, next page. Monogram Goods is another good example. They have a significant amount of room between the public sidewalk and their building. So they are able to have, in this case, they've got more seating out in front. But again, would we be okay if they chose to do some type of outdoor display in that location instead?
Well, they do put
Yeah,
up,
they
they
do.
do
Yeah.
put
They
a
do
rack out.
Yeah.
They put more up, okay, so yeah, at that time, they didn't have much, so. The other thing I would like to point out, the other slide next to that there. Wware is not in the picture, but then you have ID Boutique with their entrance to their store is very close to Wware. One thing that I think we should keep in mind is the proximity of outdoor displays to other businesses. In this instance, they're very close together. Some people have mistaken, because the entrances are right there and you have display of which business it's for. So do we have a concern of how close outdoor displays are to adjacent businesses?
One question,
Mhm.
when looking at this, because as you said, as it gets closer to the 4th of July, we do have more businesses that have, not necessarily, am I concerned about like seating, but what about when there's actual racks that people are shopping at, and then it starts to impede on being able to clearly walk around? Is there a difference between that in our code versus just like, is a display of goods like the seating and the racks and shopping?
Or one mannequin.
Yeah, because I mean, I think the issue comes into play when you're trying to walk around people looking and shopping versus a sign where there's no congestion of people, making it difficult to walk around through whatever that right away amount of space that we're supposed to have on the sidewalk. So is there a difference with that right now?
That's a good point. And we've had that dealing with people with outdoor chairs and things too.
Yeah,
A great example, is in front of Birch Tree Bakery. They have their little ramp that comes up that provides a way to enter the store.
Yeah.
Out in front of that, they have some tables and chairs.
Yes,
I asked them, or require them to basically cable tie those tables and chairs to that railing behind them. Because if they don't, people will move the chairs, they start taking up more of the sidewalk.
yes,
So
exactly,
the idea is to try and keep that 6-foot clear path for pedestrians.
yes.
What we've done in the case of outdoor display of goods, it's difficult to say, here's where a pedestrian can stand to look at the goods and here's where they can't. So what we've done is we've just stated outdoor displays can be of a certain size. We require them to be up close to the building. We require them to be no larger than 10 square feet in size, so like a 2x5 area, which I suppose would fit like a rack of clothes or something. The idea then is that people are closer to the building, allowing people to pass by them out farther into the sidewalk. If we feel that we need to address that and modify that, we can certainly do so. It's difficult. The one thing that I think is difficult for us to do, we can easily create language that talks about where outdoor displays can be, how big they can be. We can even look at, let's say, what type of material that they can be, like whether we're gonna say wood or plastic or metal. It's more difficult for us to try and get into describing and saying, shelving is okay, but a t-shirt rack isn't. But I don't know that it's different, we just have to be careful about that.
Also, we were talking about public and private versus private property.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's a
So
very large issue.
things
Like when I,
that-
when I look at Monogram Goods, I see that on public property. When I look at Ivy, I see that on private property. And I don't know if I'm incorrect in saying that. I don't know what the property lines are, but that's the way I view that. So
No,
I view
and
it
I
as
agree
almost
with
two
that.
different categories that should be regulated in two different ways.
I agree with that. And again, as long as the private property and the city property isn't impinging on
Public right of ways.
pedestrian walkways where
But-
you have to go into the street to be
And I
able
also
to-
feel like it, if someone wants you to come into their store and they have an alcove area where they have a small entryway.
Yeah.
They're not gonna completely clutter it with stuff because they don't want it to be hard to get into their store.
But like,
They just wanna have a,
but like Little Juice and Monogram Goods are different just because they use that as their entry and it's not impeding on the sidewalk at all,
I
right?
really feel like restaurants are,
Yeah, that's a separate thing. We have a thing in the city
Okay.
code about
I was like, I feel like that's
outdoor
like a.
seating. and-
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that's
exactly.
a separate thing.
Yeah.
Let me preface this. Let's put on our way back hats to 15 years ago. Right? One thing we have to keep in mind is what is an outdoor display of good and what is not.
Yes.
Kelbel's Pharmacy. They have that little entryway into the pharmacy itself and they have goods that are displayed in that area. However, there is a second floor above that and the wall is flush or straight across. So I guess the court rulings is anything that's within that plane of that upper wall coming down is not outdoors, even though it really is. So that little display of goods that they have is not an outdoor display of goods. And we don't really get to regulate it similarly that we do for other businesses. Ivy
It's really
Boutique,
interesting, let me tell you.
it
Oh my
is,
God.
it's
I went and
weird.
had a conversation with them and they were explaining it all. We've had a lot of conversations about it. It's very interesting.
So Ivy Boutique is very similar where Kelbel's, it's on their property, it's outside of the first floor, but it's inside of the second floor.
Mhm.
Ivy Boutique, it's on their property, we can see the line of the sidewalk where the public sidewalk is versus their private property. But that's just a deck above them, so that is outdoors and it is something that we can regulate. The old rules said that, of course, you had situations like Kelbel Pharmacy where they get to do what they wanted to do. And then we had an application for businesses that had their own private property like Ivy. They actually went through the application process before we modified it. But then there was no option for businesses that didn't have any private property to do an outdoor display of good. So then if you go down the street to, let's say, like the Outfitter, there really wasn't an option for them to be able to do anything outdoors. So during COVID, we modified the rules. We also had some other language that we had to clean up in our old application to get rid of because it wasn't appropriate. But we modified that language, we improved the process, and we expanded it a little bit so that it was, I think, probably more fair that you had an equal opportunity for all of the businesses to do some type of an outdoor display. So that's just something to keep in mind of where we've come from to get where we are now. I think one concern that comes up is what types of outdoor displays we see. We've got to be careful on how we word our language to make sure that it is still enforceable regarding some of that.
Okay.
What are our next slides look like? So again, McLaughlin, they have a little bit of space in front where I think later in the summer, they will have more out in that area. I threw in Tom's Mom's Cookies, not because they generally do much outdoor displays, but just a what if. That's a large area between the building and the street. Let's say that for whatever reason, Tom's Mom's left and a new business went in. They have a lot of room for outdoor displays. What would we expect to see, like to see, or not like to see in a larger area like that? Next slide. So the back of the outfitter, I don't know if this would be under the category of outdoor display or if it would be in the category of outdoor storage, but they have their kayaks. And I think they put out some other items throughout the summer in that back area. Just they have a lot more room there. So do we want to see more things or do we want to see it cleaner with less items? Just something for discussion, for thoughts for the future.
Do they own that parking lot?
Yes, they do.
I believe they do.
Okay.
Yes. And then right on the other side of the barber shop there is the tile works place. Then again, another situation where they have a lot of property that's off the street. And I think that was the last I had regarding outdoor displays. So we don't have to come up with a decision right now. I think that sometime throughout the summer, if the DDA could make a recommendation to the planning commission regarding some ideas, I think defining our current outdoor display language is kind of silent on the topic of public versus private. It just assumes, you know, one and all, same regulations for all, which can be tricky and limiting. I think it would be appropriate to have different regulations for outdoor displays on private property.
Agreed.
And then regulations for outdoor displays on the public sidewalk
Agreed.
for the size of what we'd like to see.
There definitely needs to be language about just impeding pedestrian mobility.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that for me, that's the biggest, like when I'm looking at the outfitter, like that's not, they've always done a good job at whether it's storage of their rental kayaks
It
or
is
whatever.
always
I mean, they always do a great job. And even Chorus Space, same type of situation. But what I'm seeing is they are not impeding the public pedestrian mobility down the city sidewalks the way that some of the shops on Main Street, when they have 4 racks of goods and people are shopping through them and stopping and waiting, which you do. I mean, that's what what shopping's supposed to happen, but you have to walk out into the street to be able to get past that store. So that if there's not something already in the code about that, that would be my concern. Not necessarily private property.
My only thoughts are if everyone hasn't read what the code is, I suggest you do that.
I did when I first opened, but I don't.
Just at some point,
It's in the
yeah,
packet.
I just would want everyone to read it. And then, I don't know, I forgot my other thing, so I come back to it.
So, Gail, let me ask. Oh, I'm sorry.
My question is, I think a lot of it deals with sidewalk sale when you're talking about racks in front. Is the recommendation to do away with what happens at sidewalk sale?
So let's back up. So city council can at any time set up for some type of a special event downtown. And our normal rules would kind of, to a limited extent, be set aside for an event like that. And so sidewalk sales would be one of those events. So during sidewalk sales, our rules and regulations for outdoor display of goods is kind of to some extent set aside for whatever special rules council has set up for those events.
I know a lot of retailers like to keep their racks out, past sidewalks out for a couple of days or maybe one or two for a couple of weeks, but,
And that's where these
That's what we're
rules
talking
would come into
about. That's
play.
where we're talking.
When there's no
People are-
special event going on, what would you like to see businesses be able to do or not do?
And the other thing is, I saw a lot, I know a lot of, my friends have sandwich boards. And currently and they seem to be fairly small. It's not like they're that obtrusive, I don't think. Is that already regulated? And
Yes,
Yeah.
that is regulated through our signage code. And we do permit each business to have one of those as long as it's placed in a location that's safe and under a certain size.
Okay, so there's no question that that's allowable.
Yeah, we have regulations, yeah. And I try and get out throughout the summer, and just, walk around downtown, try and catch to see what businesses.
And how about benches? I know my neighbor likes to put his bench right out on the curb versus right in front of the store.
Benches should be located up against the storefront, right? Like we saw in the slide for turkeys or the yummies, where they have their face of their store. Benches, planters, any other item that wouldn't be considered a display of good would fall under that kind of furniture and fixture design. And that can be done basically, a bench is about 30 inches wide. And so we say you can have planters, things like that, within 30 inches of the face of your building to allow for some of that. Yeah. And I try and catch that walking around through the downtown to, catch some of these displays that might be getting a little bigger, but sometimes they just pop up over the weekend and it's difficult to do. But if anybody sees any of that, they can let me know.
Did you want us to make a recommendation on seating, or is that just including, because it's kind of under the same umbrella, but we would only be making a recommendation on outdoor goods or?
If you have thoughts on it, because it's within the DDA, then I think, we can certainly look at that in the future.
Okay.
Nothing is needed at this point in time. I just figured we're talking about storefronts, outdoor display of goods, signage, kind of all goes in together with how our downtown looks. So I just figured I'd include that language so that it was in there, so that we were aware of what was being regulated and what wasn't.
Can I ask, Gail, as a non-business owner right now, I mean, retired. I think probably all of us as business people, at least I know how I think, is whatever they can do to sell their wares in the summer and continue to, not whatever, but within reason. What, as a resident, how do you feel when you walk around, or when you see these, what do you think?
I appreciate you asking me that because being a non-business owner, although being on the DDA, it's important you guys are business owners. So here's my number one thing. This is our season, right? We're coming upon our season. And I think I don't think we should restrict our retailers. If they stay within, I have no problem with the benches. I have no problem with that. Put a rack out. Because as long as you are not really impeding the walkway. Because, that's what brings business to our town. Yes, it's a display of goods. I spent my life in department store retail, so of course we didn't have these issues, because everything was everywhere. But I am, benches, I know the store next to Chuck, their bench is, in the middle of the sidewalk, they move it to the curb so people can sit on it, except, we can police that though. That's no problem. But I am, I will attend the meeting when the discussion is done. But I think if you police it, I don't see a problem with a rack out front.
No, as long as, like you said, the biggest thing is making sure that the sidewalks are not impeded and people are able to get through
Right.
without having to go into the street.
And I'm just gonna share something, and I'm gonna call, Danny, you don't have to say anything, but one of the problems with the sidewalks felt so tight was that the trees, they haven't been trimmed in a long time. And so Dan and a group went out there and trimmed them up respectfully, just to open up that space, because you go in front of, let's say, paper station, and you're getting hit in the face with the trees as you're talking to people that are in the eating area. So, but that has been taken care of. Thank you so much. It's really appreciated.
Can I just make one comment on that too? Talking about impeding, traffic on the sidewalks and, keeping the storefronts more visible and all that. I'm jumping ahead just a little bit, but I've got to leave. I just would encourage you when you're thinking about adding another thing like the planters on the sidewalk, that's going to be one more thing to kind of create visual busyness and, stuff, you know. And 5 years ago, when we were looking at it on DDA, we had looked at hanging baskets from the lamp posts, you know, to keep them out of the circulation area. There's more maintenance to it, they're harder to water, but you know, where there's a will, there's a way.
And that'll come up a little later when we talk. Anyone else on the board have any comment? This will be a discussion, so this isn't the end of this discussion. We will carry on. Are there any comments from the public on this agenda item?
Thanks, Dana.
Yeah.
Karen Onfield. I guess the only thing that interests me is that what other stores other than clothing stores put anything out on the sidewalk? Other than a mannequin?
They didn't have anything out at the current time, but there's the bookstore that occasionally will have a shelf of books and things. Some of the retail stores will have some items out, other than clothing. And then we have Birch Tree Bakery, I think is in the past, they have that takeout window and they've had like some shelving next to that with some goods displayed on that.
And their tables outside. Yeah, like the
Yeah,
seating.
that's covered.
Seating stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are some other businesses that have some.
Yeah.
Mostly I think it's some of the clothing stores, but some of the retail stores. Yeah, there is the bicycle shop has their bicycles that they put out. And that was one that we did have some concerns about last year. It wasn't brought to my attention until over the winter. I did go down and speak to them. When they have their bikes up against the shop, they stick out quite a bit. They are angled slightly, but they do stick out a bit. But more specifically on the side of the building, there's the lamp post, a garbage can, and a sign. And so when you have the bike sticking out plus that, it created a very narrow passage. So I did speak with them and they're gonna try and keep things down closer to their entrance or maybe on the other side of that to stay away from that lamp post where they're creating that pinch point for pedestrians. So I'll monitor that throughout the summer and see how that goes.
And Jeff, I have one more. You brought up bike racks. There is, you know, the one by the Lyric.
Yeah.
And then there's one that moves around the street down the other end, and
I think right
is-
now, last time I was out, there was one right out kind of in front of Turkey's or near Turkey's.
Well, that one, yeah, that's there, but it's the one down further in front of, let me think here, it's maybe not dressed, but it's in that area, and it's moving along. Sometimes it's horizontal on the street, and sometimes it's vertical on the street. And is there a particular way that should be? It sounds like you don't want to impede bicycles coming out. And it just
Correct, I
moves.
think we should try and maintain our, 6-foot clear path for pedestrians. I know that the width of it changes depending on which sidewalk you're on. On Main Street, I believe it is 6 feet. On some of the other side streets, it's a little smaller. But that really probably is more of a DPW question, and I can certainly pass that on to Lucas. But that would be something that would be more, and I have spoken with, and I think I've spoken with Victor about this a little bit. There's also the one that's by Johann's, which sometimes is moved and sometimes the storage of the bikes spills over onto the sidewalk. But yeah, I think having a place for people to store bikes is certainly helpful for the city so that they're not just left wherever people choose to leave them.
Yeah, that's kind of what was.
But also doing it in a way that, where we can help identify the appropriate places.
Yeah.
But that's probably more of a DPW question that he would be better to answer.
These bike racks are owned by the city, they're not owned by
I
individuals.
believe so, we have, yeah, we have a few that we put around throughout downtown.
I
I think the ones at the Lyric though are owned by the Lyric, if I'm not mistaken, aren't they?
There are some that are private, some that are public, yeah, I'm not sure about the Lyric ones. Jody?
There's just two things to note, but, year before last, when we had our public information meeting for the DDA. Two of the biggest things that our retailers, merchants and residents alike. Two of the major things that they wanted to see more of, or maybe placed a little more strategically, is trash cans and bike racks.
Yep.
Those were the
Two biggest.
that was the, I mean, it seems like that's the only thing that came out of that meeting. That's what everybody was, do you remember that?
I do.
And so just some things to keep in mind, those were the two things that we definitely don't have enough trash cans and did not have enough bike racks. And again, it's a problem 8 weeks out of the year.
But I mean,
But it
those
is a-
8 weeks, especially if the wheelway is gonna come, if we're extending the wheelway, I mean, it's just gonna bring more bikes into downtown. Anyway,
Right,
so that is something that we will eventually have to really consider. Because the bikes can spill onto private property, they spill onto people's lawns, they spill into the sidewalks. So yeah, that would definitely be something that we need to talk about at that time.
and that could be something that the DDA could.
Yeah.
Potentially fund down, like,
Yeah.
would be matching and good looking.
So I would, there's been some talk about you having your plan, designing a new streetscape or installing a new streetscape. I know there's been some work done on it already. But in a streetscape plan, you would have a location where the trash can goes and the location where the bike rack goes. Bike rack would probably be screwed into the sidewalk so that it didn't get moved around. And
Yeah.
I think that comprehensive plan has to get done, and then maybe you can get, working on it a piece at a time. So bike rack here, bench there, whatever, money comes, so yeah.
Okay,
Let me move on to the next part of this, we go down about couple slides. So, window signage. So we've addressed this in various different ways throughout the years. As part of our new project here, we're moving our signage code out of the zoning code. It'll be its own separate, document. The way that we're looking at addressing window signage in the new document is to look at the windows and look at the percentage of the window that is allowed to be encumbered by signage. A lot of communities are handling it that way. Right now, we basically just have it as part of our overall square footage for signage that's available for each building.
Yeah.
I think that separating it out, window signage and having it be a percentage of the glass coverage is probably a better way moving forward. The question is, what percentage of the window would we like to see burdened by signage or encumbered by signage? So I again, when I was walking through downtown, I took some pictures. I'll be quick about this. I know you guys have other things to do. So what we have as a placeholder in the signage code right now is 15%, which is not very much. So we have some examples of businesses, and I think a lot of businesses are probably close or near to that. Turkey's is a great example where they have a little bit of a banner along the bottom of the window, and then they have the name of their business in the display. A lot of businesses are like that. We have the same thing at the business next door. Some of the glare in the windows it's hard to see exactly what they have. But most of the businesses will have the name of their business or some type of a banner in the lower third, maybe another something up a little bit higher for the public to see. Realtors, though, is where things start to get complicated. Over the last 10 years, realtors have started encumbering more of their windows with listing sheets. And this is the problem is when we come up with our rule, it's going to have to apply equally to all businesses. So how can we work with and come up with something that works for as many businesses as we can? We did have at the last time I was here, we had a question come up of can we set a different percentage based on the use of or the type of business that's there, retail versus office versus whatnot. And that is specifically what we cannot do.
We can't.
There was a state Supreme Court case in Arizona. And it talked about, you cannot refer to the content of a sign when determining what rules you're going to apply to it. And the specific case was where they had different rules set up for a church sign versus a realtor sign versus another sign. And I believe it was a church that took them to task on that and said, you basically by referring to the content of the sign, we're impinging on their freedom of speech, is what it kind of boiled down to. So I did ask about that, of whether we could adjust our rules based on, but that was specifically what we cannot do. So whatever percentage of the window that we come up with, it has to apply equally to all businesses. And we did also a couple of years ago get an attorney's opinion, because there is a difference between, let's say, a display of goods in a window, like a clothing store that has a mannequin in the window displaying their clothes. Originally I was thinking, well, maybe realtor sheets are their display of goods.
That's the case, I would argue if I was a realtor.
The attorney's opinion is that is signage.
Okay.
So we do have to take that into consideration. The other thing that I would ask is that we've started seeing, I don't know if it's visible in any of these slides, if we can just kind of page through a couple of them. I've pretty much talked about what I would like to talk about on here, but the other thing is some of the realtors are now putting on their listing sheets where they have kind of that light that's around them, the halo to them.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that that's right now in any, there aren't any problems with that. If it was shining through the image, we would have a concern about that. So I guess the question is, are we comfortable with that? Or do we want to have a discussion about that as well?
I mean,
So,
Is that considered neon?
well, my thought is if we tell them to take it down, I mean, then maybe they're gonna put a TV screen in there that's got a flashing listing, because it'll only take up.
that's not permitted.
Okay.
The problem with having any type of an LED display is you can say that it's permitted or not permitted, but you can't control the content. So some communities have tried to say, okay, we'll allow a TV, but you can only change the image every 15 seconds. And you can't do that. You can say yes to a TV or no to a TV.
And that's it, yeah.
But if they choose to have it flash sale, come in now, and just scrolling marquee stuff, we can't control that.
So we currently have no TV screens.
We currently say no
Okay,
TV.
perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's a,
We currently say no self-illuminated signs, and a TV would fall within that.
yeah.
I thought
Would
it was something
the-
with the lighting signs.
Like what you were just talking about the signs around that, would that be considered a self-illuminated sign as well?
Well, because it's not, if it's shining through the listing, so that the listing, let's say, is illuminated and you can read it at night, then that would not be permitted. If it's around it or shining onto it, like if you have if this is the public out here and this is the building, if we have light shining through any sign, illuminating it to the public, that wouldn't be permitted. But you could have a light out here shining on the sign, illuminating it so the public can see it. If that's, without showing the diagram, sometimes it's difficult to describe. So those are just some thoughts. The planning commission is going to be working on the signage issue probably sooner than outdoor display of goods. Outdoor displays, I think if you guys can have some type of recommendations or thoughts for the planning commission at some point over the summer, so that the planning commission could at some point in the fall or winter have a public hearing and get some further input from the public on that and make a recommendation to city council, that would be good. Signage we're probably working on during the summer. I don't think it will take effect for this summer. But we can then put whatever regulations in place that we want to put in and then make sure that we have discussions with businesses about signage for next year. Be good. So again, any thoughts that you guys have specifically on kind of addressing that percentage of the window that we would like to see covered with signage? So we can have some thoughts on that. So any other questions?
Yeah, I have on signage in the window. If some of the stores have a specific event, are there times where you can give merchants or retailers options that will supersede right now the 15%? Or they got a major event going on, they'd like to promote it. Can they have Is it, so
So
allow them to do some of this?
again, we're working on the new code on what we're gonna have. So I guess what I can do is I can tell you how the current code works. And we can see whether or not we wanna, what aspects of the current code we wanna keep in the new code. Our current code handles that in two ways. We have, the first one would be, let's say, something more permanent, where we allow up to 6 square feet of, let's call it a message board sign. A lot of businesses have their, kind of an aluminum case with corkboard in where they can put various messages up. I've addressed that with some other businesses where we just kind of put an imaginary box in their glass and say, this is your message board. And where they can have then changing messages. Let's say it's a clothing store, they might have a 75% off sale this weekend, or even if they just want to advertise for something that's not at their location, like if the middle school is having their spaghetti dinner and they want to put up a little flyer in that area for that event, they could do so. The other thing we have is we have an allowance in the code right now for temporary signage that would be up for a limited amount of time, that they can do some type of a banner or something. But then again, if it's for an event that's sponsored by the city, such as sidewalk sales, there might be separate rules that they say can be done in that regard too. So does that kind of help answer that?
I mean, I like am thinking in my mind, I don't know what anyone else is thinking, but I mean, quick diagram drawing, that's like about a quarter, that's 25% of what a window would be. I mean, I feel like in my mind, like 25-30% isn't offensive because it's not the entire window, doesn't block out light. And yet again, if you have a business and you want people to see inside, you're not gonna cover the entire thing with signage in my mind. I mean, that would be, so you might even not even use that 30%, but that's kind of what I was thinking. I don't
Right
know.
now it's currently 15%.
15.
Well, currently, we're handling things differently. We put in 15% as a placeholder. That was something that some other communities have used. That's very limiting. Like a lot of the businesses that we see downtown, that's probably close to what they're doing is somewhere in 15 to 20%. Turkeys where they just have the simple thing there. Some communities allow more. I think, we don't want to go to, let's say 75 or 80 or 100%, because then you can end up with, because again, we're talking about any type of signage or advertising that would be in their window, so.
And signage and displays of goods are different, correct?
There can be a crossover where you could have a display of good that is considered advertising that can become a sign. Realtors listing sheets are probably a good example of that, right? I think we want to try and you could, even if you choose, have this or come up with some language that might recommend a maximum display of goods in a window. Do we want to have, let's say, a t-shirt shop completely cover their window with t-shirts?
Jeff,
Yes.
isn't there something in the code about ground floor transparency, so that we have to have a require, for each business has to have a minimum transparency? And if you're blocking that certain percent of windows, could that potentially negate how much of their ground floor is transparent?
That could be. I think that's more in regards to if someone is building or completely redoing their storefront, the amount of window space we would like to see in a new building.
Right, but if that window space is blocked by signage,
Yeah.
then is that, right, what I'm trying to get is that defeat the purpose of having the transparency.
That's another good thing to keep in mind. Again, I'm not looking for answers right now. If you have any thoughts, recommendations for the planning commission, we would appreciate feedback. Get as much feedback from as many different sources as we can. That way, whatever we come up with, our new signage language will hopefully work the best.
Great,
So,
thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there, I think just the.
I agree,
Yes.
I agree.
Well, I don't feel like, I mean, I almost feel like we should make a recommendation, because we're not gonna meet. They might have already.
Add on to that,
Because I have such long legs.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good luck.
Let's get back on track.
because we did not meet in July, we will meet in August. I think I read the scenario by Jeff the other day in the office, but the committees will continue to meet. So the enhancement committee can talk about this and then we can speak about it at the August meeting and get that information to you. And I think we really talked about wanting to wait the summer and see how much it was used and how horrible it looked, if it looked horrible, or if it was done tastefully, and that will give us a better idea of things that we might want to recommend.
Okay, I'll open it up.
Is August too late?
No, again, I think we're not rushing to try and get anything in place right now. I think the key would be to make sure that we have enough time to put something in place for the next year. So we can certainly work on this through the fall, and I think we'll be okay.
The administrative ordinance passed by council is through October
Through October.
31st. As many businesses don't use their outdoors display in the winter. But
Okay. We're good? I'll open this up to public comment on both the display of goods and the signage. Any comments?
I think, the only thing that interests me is, if the real estate signs were put back 2 feet onto, say, a display wall, and then the gram sign would be then at the base of the window, would that then be allowed?
Actually, I don't know if I included it in the slide here, but I think in our definition for that stuff, somewhere in the code, we do talk about that. If a sign or things are 3 feet or further away from a window, it would not be considered signage.
Are there any other comments
No.
from the public? No? Okay. So the next thing, and I'm gonna move through this fast in respect of everybody's time. On the 30th of May, the DDA board attended a basic training session that was open to the public. And one of the things, in going through it, and then Cora and I with Becky attended their workshop the following day. And I'm just gonna ask the board, this those that attended, if you have just one, not kind of an aha moment, when you went through the materials, when you listened to the speaker that just kind of stood out.
I wish I would have watched or been a part of that presentation the day I started. I think it's great, and I think that it was recorded, and anyone who wasn't here should watch it. Take the time to watch it in 10-minute sections if you have to. It's better than reading the PowerPoint, because we had a lot of discussion that went back and forth where we asked questions. It was like a PowerPoint, but also a discussion, where we were able to clarify a lot of points and how to go about things, and it was
Very informative.
very informative. Yeah, it was just a really wonderful experience, the whole thing.
Well, one of the things, and I'm gonna jump on what you said, Cora, is I thought about it as potential board members are being, and I'll call it interviewed, whatever that process is called here. It would be great for them to understand what is the role of the DDA and have basic informations, because one of the things that in this, when Cindy was talking, is why do you want to be on the DDA? And I think that was a valid question. It made me think about that. And I think that would be important, but I'll keep that short.
It also attested to how many hours that you needed to be willing to dedicate to not only just meetings, but outside of meetings, to committee meetings, to all the things that we're volunteering. I think it really prepares you for it.
But it certainly made me question the amount of time that I put into being on the board.
Right.
Maybe now, not before, when I was chair, but I think it makes you question yourself. It's a good self-check, good self-awareness. My phrase that I really kind of kept aha every time she discussed something or we got to another point was that it all comes down to the phrase that started becoming popular in the 2000s was placemaking. And really, everything that we should be doing is related to placemaking, which is creating a place where people want to come. Doesn't matter if it's a bench, if it's a bunch of Adirondack chairs on the Marina Park. We should be constantly thinking about that. and I think we do as business owners, then I think that, Gail, you can always bring a good perspective too, being a resident. And so we need to bridge the gap between what the residents what the residents understand and what they believe, and what we as business owners believe will create the sense of place that will bring people into our town and into our places. Small places.
Any other aha moments?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was interesting in how the state is so involved in what the reporting and the requirements of DDAs. I didn't realize that coming in, and so I thought, that's just one part that was a little more surprising, because I thought we were just our own little entity, but we're not. And the other part is, there's a lot more public involvement in the DDA than I've seen and have heard, and it's through twice annual meetings, I think it was something like that, open, and that sounds great to me, because it's a lot of good ideas are not gonna come from just this group, but from the outside, and if we heard more from the people, the citizens of our little community, that'd be great. So.
Excellent. Okay, I'll open this up. Just if anyone from the public have a comment on this, unless you probably were here or watched the video, it'd be more difficult. Excellent. Okay.
And
Becky,
let's thank Karen for coming,
oh
because
yeah, thanks, Kim. We appreciate that.
I hope you got a lot, I hope you.
Yeah, I'm gonna do something with it. I haven't quite crafted it yet, but,
Ruh-roh.
but no, it's, because I think Charles is right. That, the public involvement, but you have to know about it. You have to,
Sure.
understand it, and so, the first thing to do is to present the PDF and then the video. And the ones that want to take the time will, and then that's where you start.
Thank you. Okay, Becky, I'm gonna turn it over.
Okay, thank you. On the agenda, there's a promotions committee, and there's a more complete set of notes in your packet. But they did meet, and they did talk about the directory listings, the idea of maybe having to pay to play to get on the directory. They have not made a decision yet. We have several months where we have to make that decision, and we did not have a full committee meeting that day. The visitors map is in progress, being worked on, and we talked about future projects at that meeting, and that streetscape was one of the things that were brought up there. I did give them a list of all the things that are in this downtown plan that they could work on, that the county has already approved for them to work on, and they went through some ideas and thoughts there. Talked about adding a new event. It was their first meeting, so they're just getting organized. You can go. Unless there's questions on that, okay? The enhancement committee also met, and they did do this, talked about this. Gail, you already brought up the tree trimming, and Gail was very involved with that too. They got up early on a Sunday morning, and they walked around and they hauled all the trim away, and they did a really good job. So thanks to Gail and Dana, I'm sorry, I know a Dana, it's very hard for me. The Third Street lighting, the contractor is not available at this time. And I was very disappointed in that, because I had not expected that, even though I know that contractors are very, it's very, summertime is crazy for them, but we are on the schedule for the week of September 9th. So the twinkle lights will stay up until then, and we did. See, I guess we haven't said at this meeting, but after the last meeting, we did do a walk around again and looked where we would put the lights on both sides of the street. So we have a map ready for them, set to go, but not until September 9th. Wayfinding system repairs is the same thing. The contractor has issues. I'm not asking him anymore to pull any of the signs this summer. I don't want them gone, because I don't know when they'll get back, but any of the repairs that he can do, he can come out and do the painting, the ones that are on site, he will get done as he can. We did work on the Merchants Walkway. Vanessa was there from OHM, and she answered some questions for the committee. Again, they just, are recommending it falls under their, scope of work. I want to talk just a little bit about the beautification that's gone on over there. I had a picture this is last time, and I couldn't get my new picture to load in there, and I don't know why that happened, but I did use all the leftover flowers from, when we planted the flowers on the streets and put them in, there just happened to be just enough of, rather inexpensive. My investment was $159, so, flower boxes, and they're the geraniums and the alyssum, so they match, and they're sitting on the steps, and all that orange cage wire has been taken away now. And we still have the barricade there that says, you know, stairway closed, and then the one at the top, but that looks a lot nicer if you get a chance to go over there. And Lucas set up a hose for me so I can grow water and make sure that they stay alive. Got me all hooked up over there. And then Gail is talking with a couple of nurseries about some kind of bushes that could be donated, and we could put those around the hole where the fountain was, and at least make it not look like, I mean, it is a construction zone, but you know, there are two ways to look at it. Maybe you just make it look like a construction zone, but other than that, maybe you make it look as pretty as you can. So I think that's what we're doing at this point. And then the committee also talked about the flower planting, Jody, that you were, how it went this year, and then options for that going forward. We had the National Honor Society help, but they have schedules that they have other places they have to go. So it was a few volunteers at the end for a long day. My opinion is that soil is so compacted underneath those trees, it's hard to dig into it and actually plant anything. I'm going to be watching carefully this summer to see they're in mulch and in topsoil right now, but I don't know how that, with no barrier around it. I don't know. I just have to wait and see how that lasts. It's not the most ideal way to plant things.
They get
But-
trounced down.
And I know that they get trounced down
Yeah, yeah.
regardless, and you know, people told me, well, wait till you see them after Memorial Day because of the parade. Well, it rained so hard for the parade that that was a good thing. At least they got a good start. So the committee talked about the streetscape that's been on the table for a while, and with the fact that there is a little bit more money coming in, that maybe some of that will be possible. And the idea of the containers that are self-irrigated did get strong favoritism, but we all said this all has to be comprehensive, and you have to have a plan that says street light here, trash can here, bench here, flower container there, and it has to be studied and looked at and made sure that it's workable before you go ahead and spend money on it. So
For the whole central
the whole
business
thing.
district.
But yes, Margaret, for the whole center business district. And then I think it's really important coming into you from the outside that you focus on Main Street, of course, but that Third Street is part of it, going up the hill is part of it, Bay Street is part of it. Anything that's in the CBD needs to be included in everyone's mind as downtown, so.
And then that also means, what do we do with what do we do with the tree bases as they are?
Right, we talked about that in the
Oh, okay.
enhancement.
We're
Okay.
gonna look up previous streetscapes. Our next meeting, I think we're gonna try and look up previous streetscape plans that had been on the table and see if there's something we can maybe cobble together from those, because we don't necessarily think that we need to pay and hire out to do a whole nother one when there's probably been ones done in the past, and maybe we could take part and parcel from some of those and create a new. Because even if we went
Two of
to,
those yesterday too.
'Cause even if
They
we
even
did-
specify a variety of trees.
yeah, so even if we go to someone and say, hey, you know, could you make us a new one, but we want this, these parts, and then they could draw it out and it'd be a much simpler, cost-effective project than having someone start from scratch.
Okay, any other, I'm gonna just open it up to public comment. Is there anyone sitting here that has a comment on either the notes from the enhancement committee or the promotions committee?
I do, Nancy Rondell, 181 Zoll. I've been involved in some of this for quite a long time. I would recommend looking at something at those tree bases that is not a living thing. That doesn't have to be replaced every year.
Right.
I know I was in a city where there were rocks that were lovely, that were contained. They weren't loose rock. And I think that there's some other options out there, because this has been an ongoing problem and they don't do well. there's no way they do well at those bases of those trees downtown. So I know you guys are looking at that. I would encourage you looking at something that doesn't have to be replaced every single year like that. And maintained all summer.
Right.
When nobody has time.
Right.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yeah.
Okay, we're running out of time here, so this is a list of some of the things that I did this month. I'll try to pick out some of the. I really enjoyed, I met with Chris from the Lyric and toured the theater. It took me every place in the projecting room. It was just so informative. Talked about their plans for adding space in the back. That was a great visit. We did have the MDA summer workshop here. Gail and Cora came to the meetings. They sat there all day long, I thought. And they looked like they enjoyed themselves, so.
It was very, it was very interesting.
And I will tell you that the MDA feedback, their conference committee call was yesterday, I think. And they did a survey and people just, oh my God, we loved Harbor Springs. It was so wonderful. It's so beautiful. And then people are saying, oh, you're so lucky we get to work there. You know, so it's just.
And you said, yes, I am.
So going forward, we are not meeting again until August. And I want to really immerse myself in being downtown a lot, walking around. Might see me sitting on a bench, just watching traffic patterns, seeing who's carrying what, seeing what hours of the day are busier, what they are not. I need to really get familiar with how the way that kind of thing works here. We're gonna do some more surveying, with our great list that we finally have now. We're gonna move ahead with the Merchants Walkway, keep working on that one. And it's gonna be budget time coming up, and I've already had some good meetings with Nick, but I need to meet more with him and then begin work on the budget. And I'll have some preliminary things to talk about the budget for you when we meet again in August. And the committees will continue to meet, and they meet, someone was asking earlier, promotions is the last Tuesday of the month at 11 o'clock. And enhancement is the first Wednesday of the month at 9 a.m. And they're right here, so. Any questions for me or?
So are we having an enhancement committee in July?
Yes, we are. If no one can make it and we need to reschedule it, we can do that, but
I can be there.
I thought you were okay with 9 o'clock, Margaret? When-
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just July.
I know.
The 3rd of July, I believe.
It is the 3rd of July.
Ay.
Oh, is it the 3rd of July?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll get back to you. We might-
Okay, all right.
I'm pretty much out of pocket the rest of July, like from the 4th until the
It's just
25th.
a
I am,
Just nuts time of year.
yeah, unavailable.
Well, I'll send a note out to you guys.
That's fine.
Take that out. Okay. Any public comment? Excellent. We appreciate your comment, all of you. Thank you. Okay. We'll adjourn the meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But are we having a promotions meeting last?
I know, Nancy moved. Wait, I can smell it. Where did you stand it? Oh, she got it.
Yeah.